طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داع. Oh, the white moon rose over us from the valley of Wada, and we owe it to show gratefulness where the call is to Allah.
طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داع.
رسول الله حبيب الله نبي الله شفيع الله. رسول الله حبيب الله نبي الله شفيع الله. صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. أيها المبعوث فينا جئت بالأمر المطاع، جئت شرفت المدينة مرحبا يا خير دار. أيها المبعوث فينا جئت بالأمر المطاع، جئت شرفت المدينة مرحبا يا خير دار.
أيها المبعوث فينا جئت بالأمر المطاع، جئت شرفت المدينة مرحبا يا خير دار.
رسول الله حبيب الله نبي الله شفيع الله. رسول الله حبيب الله نبي الله شفيع الله. صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Oh, you who were raised amongst us, coming with a word to be obeyed, you have brought to this city nobleness. Welcome, best caller to God's way.
أيها المبعوث.
The statements we're about to show you are from the Holy Quran and is said to be the official, unchanged, pure is a heavy statement, and without proof, or if a single contradiction is found within the book, the apparent word of God will be proven false. So without further ado, let's put the book to the test. In the 23rd chapter, titled The Believers, from the 12th to the 14th verses, God is said to give a detailed description of how the human being is formed. It begins by saying, "We then placed him as a sperm drop in a place of settlement, firmly fixed. Then we made the drop into a alaqa." We will translate this word very soon. "And then we changed the alaqa into a lump. Then we made out of that lump into bones. And then we clothed the bones with flesh. Then we caused him to grow and come into being and attain the definitive human form." In the 21st century, we can now safely say that this verse is clearly describing the process of human development in correct chronological order. However, what we should be paying attention to in particular is the second stage, referring to the development of the embryo. The specific word used to describe the embryo in this verse is the word alaqa. The word alaqa, when translated into English, can mean three separate things. Firstly, a blood clot, or to be suspended, that is to be hanging or clinging to something, or thirdly and finally, a leech, Now, all three definitions don't come anywhere near what we perceive to be the human embryo. So, why are these words used, and what significance do they share with the human embryo? Can the embryo be described as a blood clot? Well, what do you think? In the 3rd week of embryonic development, a tubular heart joins with the blood vessels to form a primordial cardiovascular system, and by the end of the 3rd week, the blood is circulating and the heart begins to beat on day 21. The first thing that comes to mind in regards to being suspended or hanging is the umbilical cord. But we can't use that example because we are simply referring to step 2, before the baby has even formed. But we now know today that the umbilical cord is formed from the connecting stalk. And the connecting stalk is formed as soon as the embryo is formed. The embryo's connecting stalk has even been described by John Allen and Beverly Kramer as an object to suspend the developing embryo in the extraembryonic column. So an embryo is suspended and does have a strong resemblance with a blood clot. What on earth would an embryo have to do with a leech? Figure A shows the structure of an embryo at 25 days. Figure B shows a leech. Now please note once again that the embryo in this stage is no greater than the size of a kernel of wheat. This is an X-ray of the embryo at 22 days. This is the internal structure of a leech. It's mind-blowing stuff, but you still haven't seen anything yet. This is the head of the embryo at 22 days. The detail you are seeing right now is absolutely impossible to be seen with the human eye and can only be seen with a microscope. This is the back end of a leech. There's no other words used to describe this other than mind-blowing. The pictures we have shown you are impossible to be seen with the human eye or even to be predicted by the human mind. Once again, the verses we have shown you were revealed over 1400 years ago to a man who couldn't read nor write. Are these the words of God?
Descriptions of the human embryo in the Quran cannot be based on scientific knowledge in the 7th century. The only reasonable conclusion is that these descriptions were revealed to Muhammad from God, from God, from God, from God, from God, from God.
طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا.
The 20th century saw a great many new discoveries regarding celestial phenomena in the universe. One of these is the black hole. When a star has consumed all its fuel, it collapses in on itself, eventually turning into a region with infinite density and zero volume and an immensely powerful magnetic field. This is called a black hole. We are unable to see black holes, even with the most powerful telescope, because their gravitational pull is so strong that even light is unable to escape from them. Their presence, however, can be perceived by means of the magnetic effect they have on the surrounding area. In the Quran, God draws attention to this matter in this way. And I swear by the stars' positions, and that is a mighty oath, if you only knew. All stars with large masses set up gravitational fields in space. A black hole constantly increases its density, and thus gravitational attraction, by drawing everything around it, or that passes by it, into itself. In this sense, it resembles a hole in space into which everything around it is pulled. That is why they are known as black holes. This information about stars in the Quran is also remarkable. I swear by heaven and the Tadiq. And what will convey to you what the Tadiq is? The star piercing, the darkness.
While referring to the sun and the moon in the Quran, it is emphasized that each moves in a certain orbit. It is He who created the night and the day, and the sun and the moon. They swim along, each in an orbit. It is mentioned in another verse too that the sun is not static, but moves in a certain orbit. And the sun runs to its resting place. That is the decree of the Almighty, the All-Knowing. These facts communicated in the Quran have been discovered by astronomical observations in our age. According to the calculations of experts on astronomy, the sun is traveling at the enormous speed of 720,000 kilometers an hour in the direction of the star Vega in a particular orbit called the solar apex. This means that the sun travels roughly 17,280,000 kilometers a day. Along with the sun, all planets and satellites within the gravitational system of the sun also travel the same distance. In addition, all the stars in the universe are in a similar planned motion. That the entire universe is full of paths and orbits, such as this one, is inscribed in the Quran as follows. By the sky, full of paths and orbits. There are more than 100 billion galaxies in the visible universe, and each small galaxy contains approximately 1 billion stars. Furthermore, each big galaxy contains more than 1 trillion. Most of these stars have planets, and most of those planets have satellites. All of these heavenly bodies move in very precise computed orbits. For millions of years, each has been swimming along in its own orbit in perfect harmony and order with all the others. Moreover, many comets also move along in the orbits determined for them. The orbits in the universe do not only belong to celestial bodies. The galaxies also travel at enormous speeds in computed, planned orbits. During these movements, none of these celestial bodies cut across another's path or collide with another. Indeed, it has been observed that some galaxies pass through each other, with none of their components touching each other. Surely at the time the Quran was revealed, humankind did not possess today's telescopes or advanced observation technologies to observe space in a range of millions of kilometers, nor the modern knowledge of physics or astronomy. Therefore, at that time, it was not possible to determine scientifically that space is full of paths and orbits, as stated in the verse. However, this was openly declared to us in the Quran that was revealed at that time because the Quran is the Word of God.
Oh, the white moon rose over us from the valley of Wada.
In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Welcome to Islam for Dummies. Today, we will be talking about 3 scientific facts about the Earth's atmosphere, which were stated in one brief passage of the Quran 1400 years ago. It is important to point out that while it is not a science textbook, yet the Quran mentions numerous scientific facts long before they were discovered. First, we will examine the state of the Earth's first atmosphere. The University of Michigan's website states regarding the evolution of the atmosphere.
The first atmosphere was formed by outgassing of gases trapped in the interior of the early Earth, which still goes on today in volcanoes. For the early Earth, extreme volcanism occurred during differentiation, when massive heating and fluid-like motion in the mantle occurred.
Now, let's examine the Quran chapter 41 verses 9 to 11, which pertain to the creation of the earth.
Do you indeed disbelieve in him who created the earth in 2 days, and made in it mountains, anchored from its top? Then he turned to the heaven, while it was smoke. So he said to it and to the earth, Come both of you, obediently, or with dislike.
The Quran clearly refers to the smoke of Earth's first atmosphere, which was caused by extreme volcanic activity. This scientific fact could not have been known 1400 years ago. Yet, the Quran mentions it. And for those who will claim that
the word smoke is too general, as it could mean any type of gas,
we will actually be citing the person, Discuss Islam, despite his belief that the Quran contradicts science.
Gas and smoke are not the same thing. Gas is a state of matter. Smoke is a collection of solids, liquids and gases that are emitted when a material combusts.
The word used in the Quran to describe the first atmosphere is indeed smoke, and not gas. And to demonstrate that this verse indeed refers to the Earth's atmosphere as it was being formed, we will again be citing Discuss Islam's own words. Discuss Islam admitted that this verse cannot be referring to the universe.
If one looks at the verses before and after this verse, one can see very clearly that it cannot have anything to do with the gaseous state of the universe. It says God created the earth, then he created the hills on the earth, and then it says he turned to the heavens when they were smoke.
Indeed, the word heaven in this verse does not refer to the universe, rather, it refers to the smoky atmosphere of the early Earth's extreme volcanism, as we saw earlier. Furthermore, the Quran's order of the creation of the earth, and then the mountains, and then the atmosphere, is the second scientific fact from this passage that could not have been known 1400 years ago. Second, we will examine the layers of the Earth's atmosphere. Let's listen to the next verse in the passage.
So he decreed them 7 heavens, in 2 days, and inspired in every heaven its ordainment.
Contrary to this false claim of Discuss Islam,
Modern science usually specifies 5 layers, not 7.
modern science usually specifies 4 layers in the Earth's atmosphere: the troposphere, the stratosphere, the mesosphere, and the thermosphere. Separating these 4 layers are 3 transition zones or layers ranging between 5 to 10 kilometers each, where the temperature remains constant: the tropopause, the stratopause, and the mesopause. According to the Encyclopedia of Earth, atmospheric layers are classified based on their effects to temperature. So according to the classification itself, there are indeed 7 distinct layers in the Earth's atmosphere, each with its own unique effects on temperature. The vast majority of sources exclude the exosphere, at an altitude of 400 kilometers, because it is part of outer space, which Discuss Islam falsely claims to be another layer. According to reference.com,
the Kármán line lies at an altitude of 100 kilometers. It is commonly used to define the boundary between the Earth's atmosphere and outer space.
More precisely, in 2009, scientists at the University of Calgary determined, with a highly advanced ion measuring instrument, that space actually begins at an altitude of 118 kilometers. Therefore, these 7 layers listed are part of the Earth's atmosphere. Anything higher than 118 kilometers is part of outer space. The 7 distinct layers of the atmosphere is the third scientific fact stated from this same Quranic passage that could not have been known 1400 years ago. Third, we will examine the false claim that the 7 heavens from verse 41:11 do not refer to the atmosphere. Discuss Islam's first false claim is that the Quran says the stars are inside the lower heaven.
We have adorned the lower heaven with the beauty of the stars.
However, the verse clearly states that the lower heaven is adorned with the beauty of the stars, and not with the stars themselves. To clarify this point, examine these fields. The fields are adorned with the beauty of the projector lights, while the lights are outside the fields. Discuss Islam's second false claim is that the Quran says the moon is inside the atmosphere.
And also, he made the moon a light in their midst, and made the sun as a lamp.
Again, the verse clearly states that the moon is a light in their midst, and not that the moon itself is inside anything. To clarify the point, examine these same fields again. The projector lights are a light in the midst of the fields, without physically being on the fields. Discuss Islam's third false claim is that the Quran uses the pre-Copernican view of the universe.
The Quran is clearly talking about the pre-Copernican view of the universe that regarded the Earth as its center.
Firstly, discuss Islam seems to be confusing the Quran, which never claims that the Earth is at the center of the universe, with the Bible, which does contain this error. Now let's hear the rest of Discuss Islam's third false claim.
With the 7 heavens containing the sun, moon, planets and stars around it.
Secondly, Discuss Islam also seems confused about the pre-Copernican view of the universe, where Aristotle said there are 8 heavens, and more importantly, Ptolemy said there are 9, which was the favored view of that time. As a result, the Quran clearly bears no similarity whatsoever to the incorrect pre-Copernican views of the universe, neither in terms of the number of heavens, nor in terms of the Earth at the center. In conclusion, one brief passage in the Quran mentions 3 scientific facts about the atmosphere, long before they were discovered. Smoke of Earth's first atmosphere, the order of its formation, and the 7 layers of the atmosphere are 3 scientific facts mentioned in the Quran that are nowhere to be found without grave errors in the pre-Copernican view of the universe.